Hello, fellow humans. We're back again to talk about some deep, meaningful, and maybe a little bit philosophical viewpoints on the use of AI in L&D. And particularly today, we are going to talk about what happens when AI projects fail and what can we learn from them. Look, if you've clicked on this video and you're expecting some of the usual AI drill that you see online about how to make X amount of money doing this or build a 150-step workflow to literally do a 3-minute job, this is not the place for you. For those of you who follow my work, you know that I share lots about the work that I do with companies that I advise on making the most of technology in workplace learning. What's really interesting is that while I have seen a lot of success in areas, I've also seen a lot of failures. And failure is not bad because failure comes from experimentation. And with all this technology being new, there really is no experts. Failing is also good because it allows you to understand where should you invest your time and your energy. There was a fantastic report that came out in the middle of last year that I still think is hyper relevant today. The report came from the RAND Corporation, and I'll share the link wherever you're watching this video. And it was called The Root Causes of Failure for Artificial Intelligence Projects and How They Can Succeed. So the first headline they found from their research that 80% of AI-focused projects fail in comparison to the typical technology projects that we know today. That should not be surprising because generative artificial intelligence is such a new technology. It's going to have a far higher failure rate within workplaces than established tech. The second thing is that 80% allows us to understand probably what's not going to be beneficial for your org. But of course, like with any research, with any experiences, context is king. It depends on what you are trying to do as an organization and the outcomes you are seeking. They found 5 leading root causes of failure for AI projects. And you can see those here. So I'm going to talk through the most relevant ones for L&D teams. What I will say is that point 2 and point 4 won't really be relevant if you're working in the L&D or HR space, because I'm imagining, unless you're in some strange quasi role, that you aren't working on the technical side of stuff. So you won't be looking at training AI models, and you won't be looking at the infrastructure for these tools as well. So we'll just focus on 1, 3, and 5. And I think I can confidently say a lot of these apply to a much wider world than AI projects. And you'll see what I mean as we go on. The first leading root cause that was found in most project failures was industry stakeholders often misunderstanding or miscommunicating what problem needs to be solved with AI. Where does that sound familiar, my friends? As an L&D pro, part of our job is to work with stakeholders to get to the root cause of what their problem actually is. And if, like me in my career, you found most of the time is that it's not an L&D problem. It's something completely different. And actually, a learning intervention, whether with or without AI, is not something that is going to help there. So that's key to remember then when you are working with people. If you're on a purely AI project or a AI and L&D project, is to be super, super clear with the audience in this project of what do they actually understand about the power, the pitfalls, and the potential of generative AI. And what is it they're trying to solve? You're going to see a pattern of this as we go along. So let's jump to number 3. And what we can see, it says here that AI projects fail in organizations because they're more focused on using the latest and greatest tech than on solving real problems for the intended users. Again, I'm pretty sure this sounds familiar, right? So what I say to most people that I work with is you need to be really laser-like on what you are using AI for and focus on particular tools. Don't jump from tool to tool to tool and chasing all of these supposed new innovations. That's not going to help you. You're just going to end up overwhelmed. You're not really going to be focusing on solving any of those problems. for your end user, you're just going to be using more and more and more tools. But what you really want to do is refine your focus on specific tools for our industry, tools that are going to help you with the task that you're being set. So yeah, it might be cool to talk about agents or workflows or all of this other stuff, but is that actually going to help you solve the problem that you're working on? Think about it. So again, we keep going back to this number one priority. You saw it in the first one. What are the problems that need to be solved? You see it in the third one. Again, solve real problems for the people you're serving. And we're going to see this again in the fifth one, my friends. So the final one, and the one that is I find often missed, is that a lot of projects fail because people try to apply generative AI tech to problems that are too difficult for AI to solve. I know a lot of people drink the Kool-Aid that they see on social media with all of these people that are showing all their fancy, supposedly agentic workflows that aren't really agentic workflows at all, and about how they're using them in businesses and selling them for X amount of money, etc., etc., etc. Most of those things don't have a lot of uses inside corporations from the examples that you see shared online. And what a lot of people tend to do, I find, is I definitely see this in discovery conversations I have, is there is a huge misalignment because of social media, because of general media, on what generative AI is actually able to do and thus the problems that it can solve. I have sat in many meetings where people have given me a huge laundry list of things they want generative AI to do, which is basically for most people, most of their job, which you shouldn't do, by the way. And that's actually not helpful. Their lack of understanding of how generative AI works stops them from leveraging it and using it to its full potential. So there's a couple of things that we can do here to help you succeed. I mean, one is obviously learn from these leading root causes that I'm showcasing to you here. But the big thing for me that comes out of this is key kind of principles or key tenets in L&D as well, which is number one, solve real problems for people. What are the pains your people are experiencing? Always focus on that. Be problem obsessed. And then with that, especially when it comes to any technology, but of course with generative AI being hot and trendy right now, is actually understand how does the tech work. It really isn't that complex. I will drop an additional video, which is basically a 7-minute explainer on how generative AI works. Just having that knowledge is so beneficial in helping you to understand where can AI be helpful, when should you use it, how should you use it, and why should you use it? Because without that, you have a real misaligned view of where AI can help. So look, in sum, experimentation is awesome. Failure is expected, but learn from it. And from those learnings, you can then go on and focus your energy into things that can succeed based on what we've discussed here. So as always, I hope that's helpful. Leave any comments wherever you're viewing this, and I will talk to you in the next one.